morning. I hate to say, can you confirm if you can hear me, but I'm sure you can. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a power session that will really tell you a little bit more around food waste and what it is that we can actually do to get around that. Before we get started, my name is Yonela Motloung, and I am the marketing lead at Unilever Food Solutions. We have our stand somewhere up on the ground floor. The logo is orange. I got orange nails. I got claquettes, yeah. There we go. I love to see even the older generation getting the claquette vibe going there. So welcome and thank you for joining. We're going to have an amazing conversation. The questions that are put together for this panel around food waste, I am so happy I don't have to answer any of them, but I do have some amazing speakers who are part of the panel who actually just take it forward from us. First up, we have got Jane Russell, and Jane is an amazing leader at Bidfood, and she is the quality risk executive. Now, Jane sitting here looking gorgeous, but has 31 years of experience in the food service industry, and she has expertise in operations management, food safety, occupational health and safety, risk mitigation, and supplier compliance. Girl, how do you do it all together? How are you doing?
Just like that.
Are you
all
well?
good, very well. Thanks,
Good.
Yonele. Thanks for the opportunity. And yeah, it's a big portfolio, but never not had fun exploring all the different subjects.
Good. I love it. Thank you for joining us. And of course, we have to have a chef. So we've got to get someone who goes to the kitchen and knows why is there wastage. So we brought the main man himself, Chef Kuvishan, aka Ku Pillay, who's the president of the South African Chef Association, head of food and beverage, Protea Hotel by Marriott, Johannesburg Wanderers. Now, Chef Ku has over a decade of culinary leadership experience with deep knowledge of sustainability, seasonality, and operational excellence. He has trained and mentored many young chefs. Listen to that, right? He can probably help nationally, and he's served in advisory board roles and now leads the culinary industry within the South African Chef Association. What a pleasure to have you. How are you doing?
Thank you, Yonela, and it's so amazing to be here. And before I upset my boss,
Yes.
just want to make a slight correction. So I'm now head of food and beverage at the Hotel Sky in Sandton.
Oh, there we go. So we're going to go follow Hotel Sky now, right? And get into it. Well, thank you so much for joining and welcome. Now we're going to delve deeper into the topic. And you, my dear, you have the maybe bad luck of starting, right? Without really knowing the questions. Now, let's get into it. We're talking about food waste, right? And what it is that we can do. And I think by the end of it, we'd love to give the guys in the audience a practical idea as to what can you do as an individual to also contribute to the wastage. As I was looking through the topic, I actually found that we have wastage in the hospitality industry sitting at just under 3 million tons. That is everything wastage in the space. And then the food waste element, listen to this, 920,000 tons go to waste annually within the food aspect of the hospitality industry. Now you ask yourself, we live in a country where people are hungry, they need the food. Where are we getting it wrong? So Jane, let's talk about this now from a food safety and supplier standpoint, right? What are some of the common areas that lead to the wastage in the kitchen, and how can they be addressed in your experience?
From a food safety perspective, I think often our customers, we look at it from a customer's perspective and an operator perspective. So customer and operator are the same thing when I refer to that.
Yeah.
So often it comes down to the basics of planning. And it all goes back to, do you know what you need? Mm-hmm. Do you know the exact quantities? Do you know what portions and portion control you need before you even start with the ordering process? Whether it's a click online on My Bidfood or whether it's a friendly phone call with your teleseller, it all goes back to planning. If you plan the detail, you can reduce your food cost phenomenally, because it also helps you manage your costs within your operation. So food safety should never be a limitation in this arena, but Having said that, often we over procure, particularly when it's a fresh product or a perishable product, and then you've got your time is running out. The clock is already ticking. So you either use it or you lose it, or you subscribe to this enormous amount of waste if you're not creative enough to be able to repurpose products in your operation. So it's about the devil is in the detail, and making sure that it all starts with good planning.
I love that, because you're bringing us to thinking about what we're going to do. A little bit of planning, a little bit of almost putting it on a paper to say, what does this translate to? Which, of course, in the kitchen, when it is a bit hot, it's not always easy. So I'm going to come to you, Chef Koo. In your experience, right, running kitchens all over the country and probably abroad, what are some of the most impactful practices which reduce the wastage while maintaining guest satisfaction? Because now you've got to think, right? I need my food now, and I need it ready. So there's that element of the wastage, there's the time, there's the planning. How do we balance that?
Well, again, it goes back to what Jane was saying, and I think everybody, or all the chefs in the room, I think we're good at our crafts. We're good at, following a recipe and delivering on that experience. But before we even get there, I think the planning is so important, because it doesn't matter in what environment you're in, whether you're in a hotel environment, a restaurant environment, in QSR, or even in a large banqueting space. You know the clientele or the diner you're catering for. So that is very important when it comes to planning. And I also think as chefs, we also need to look at ingredients that can be cross-utilized. So you're not just bringing in one ingredient for one specific dish, and you probably sell maybe only 20 portions of that a week. So is that really, a good, firstly, from a business perspective, to be buying in one ingredient for one item? Or do we have uses of that ingredient in multiple different options or dishes or recipes within your kitchen? It's also understanding your clientele, especially in a banqueting operation. I think that a lot of people underestimate the power of a banqueting chef, and more often than not, for those chefs that are in the room, the banqueting chefs are kind of put at the at the back end, and the focus is always on the a la carte of the restaurant chef. But the banqueting chef has the most difficult job in the kitchen, because can you imagine catering for a conference for 500 people? And how do you determine a menu that's going to cater for 500 people? From the tea breaks to the lunches, and obviously the overall meal experience. So that's why planning and understanding who your guest or your end user is so important before you get to, like what Jane said, the procurement and the execution.
Sure. A lot of homework there. I mean, and I've observed chefs around the country and how busy they are, right? But I think this is a critical step which actually needs to be given commitment for that planning, so that we're not wasting at the end of it and we're not contributing negatively to our environment. Now, I'll come back to you, Jane. What systems, right? Now we've established we have a problem. We need to solve that, right? Now let's tap into your experience in terms of systems and processes that or supplier collaborations that you have seen which have been successful in actually reducing the wastage that we see in our space without compromising quality or safety.
Okay. So I think we need to touch base on that rather sensitive subject, and we're sitting here with a lot of aspiring chefs, a lot of chefs people that have entered our industry, and that is such a heartwarming sight. From a person who's spent her life in the food industry, in the kitchen, out of the kitchen, it's about bringing skill into our environment. We really need skills in our kitchen. Sure. So you've chosen wisely. It's going to be tough, okay? But don't give up. And why do I say that? Because what we see on the other side is that a shortage of skills can result in food waste. So what has happened within the industry is that manufacturers and suppliers and people in the supply chain have started to get quite clever. And they've started to formulate products that just need a little bit of finishing, or are perfectly portion controlled and are individually quick frozen so that you take all the hard work. So Chef Koo has alluded to a banquet for 500 people. To do a scratch menu with very low skills in our environment, which is a reality, is hard work. Believe you me, your feet, you better have good shoes, ladies and gents, because your feet are going to take strain. But if you've got clever suppliers who can offer you a wide range of multifunctional products that offer you consistency and quality, that are already portion controlled, and in some cases are pre-cooked or par-cooked or even fully cooked, the hard work is taken out of it. Then you know, I need 500 of those portions because I'm catering for 500. Okay, let's make it 510 just in case there are a few. And whatever little bit of surplus there might be there, we can use within our own environment. And we can repurpose leftovers as well. So it's all about, once again, people getting innovative and making sure that we've got solutions within a basket of product that you're going to select from when you eventually get into that role within your operation.
Sure. That's so powerful. Now I'm so tempted to say, well, my company does that. Actually, you deliver food solutions. I'm like, am I going to be fired if I say this? But actually just thinking to that, right? Saving time, low waste, right? And just staying with that. And I think it takes a lot of commitment. I'm going to share a little bit later some of the things I do when I actually order food to make sure that I don't have leftovers that are going to be wasted. Stay tuned. Yes.
Janella, if you don't mind me just adding to what
Yes.
Jane has said, and especially to the young chefs that are in the room today. And it's not to say that what Jane has just spoken about is taking away from what you've learned or what you are currently learning in your kitchen.
Yeah.
But it takes the manual labor out of it.
Exactly.
And like Jane has said, it's the consistency. And remember, as the chef or as the outlet that you are representing, again, be it a hotel or a restaurant or a corporate caterer, it's about the consistency. So if you serve a dish today and your customer comes back in a week or 2 weeks' time, they want to have that same experience.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And this is where these products help you, because you take it because 50% of the job's done, and then you make it your own. And that's where the great balance is where these innovative products that we now have available to us.
Yeah.
Wow, I love that. Thank you for that build. Very important again. And now staying with you, Chef Koo, how do we train, right, and engage kitchen teams to adopt that waste reduction? Because now we've talked about some of the aspects and what we can do around the planning. And actually, Jane, you spoke on skill, which is something we find as well when we do research around the space that we're in, to say what are the pain points and the skill kind of. So Chef Koo, approach this question more from that level of there's training, but there's also the challenge around the skill, which is not necessarily there. The kitchen must run. We want to make money, but then we haven't got the right resources. So how do we balance this and really tap into the right training, probably with the right frequency, to ensure that we are actually tackling the food?
And the word training is such a broad statement, because the training, and again, I'm going to look to the audience on this part of the room, because I can see your jackets and you're from a training academy. The training doesn't stop there.
Yeah.
The training continues no matter what level in the kitchen you are. Even as exec chefs or culinary directors and F&B directors, you are still continuing to evolve. Because remember, times have changed, and times will keep changing. What we've done 20 years ago to what we're doing now has changed completely, and you've got to stay relevant. And for me, the education doesn't stop. We call it training. However, my whole philosophy is that it's got to be engaging, because more often than not, it's your senior chefs, your senior managers that understand the food waste, the food cost, but it doesn't filter down. So everybody in the kitchen talks about food costs. No, chef's going to be upset. Don't use this. But we don't have the understanding. Why did chefs say, don't use this, or don't throw this, or reuse this? So it's that engagement from all levels within the kitchen. And I share a lot of knowledge. Even when I attend a financial review where costs have been discussed and what can we do, you've got to engage even with your junior chefs so that they have an understanding. And there's an exercise that I do that is very impactful. So I take 10 rands and 20 rands and 50 rands and I squash them. And if I walk past a bin and I see half a pepper, CDPs will look at me and say, "Chef, what are you doing?" I said, "No, you've thrown away money, so I'm throwing away money."
Make it relative.
You got to make it relative,
Yeah.
because as a chef, we don't actually realize that the ingredients you're using is actually money.
Yeah.
You know, stock on your shelves could be money in the bank for the restaurant owner. So you need to understand. So when you look at these products, you got to see how can I utilize it, and especially now, especially with fresh produce. You know, you can use the entire ingredient.
Exactly.
You know, so if you take a carrot, more often than not, you peel it and you throw away the peels. But why not put that into the stock pot? Why not deep fry that and it becomes your garnish? You know, if you're only using the core of the carrot for your plating, why can't the offcuts go again into a stew in your staff canteen? You know, so that entire carrot has now been used. So you've already reduced waste just on one line. Now you can imagine on so many others. And most hotels, and I think I can see a lot of hotel chefs here, and it doesn't matter which hotel you go to or what rating the hotel is, your breakfast kind of always has more or less the same fruit. You've got spunspec, sweet melon, watermelon, pineapple, delicious fruits. But what do we do with the skin? What do we do with the rinds?
Rinds, yeah.
And can I tell you, you can make jams, you can make curry. Try this with watermelon rinds, because you just take the outside and you only focus on the pink juicy fruit of it, but you leave this nice white rind that's left between the skin and the fruit. Try pickling it, try making a jam out of
Serving
it,
it.
try making a curry out of it, and those ingredients come back onto your menu.
Yeah.
So now you've got your fruits on your coal station, you've got a freshly baked muffin or a scone at your pastry table, but with a homemade watermelon compote or jam that you've made from the leftovers. So you see, it's just that education and that ongoing learning that it needs to be provided in our kitchens.
I love that.
That repurposing of products is so important.
Right.
And sometimes it's about digging in the bin to see what your food waste is. So put some gloves on, be safe, and go and do a food waste audit. You know, actually unpack your waste and see, well, what am I really throwing away? You'll probably find things that shouldn't be thrown away in there too. That's the reality. But go and unpack that and then start saying, okay, so what can we reuse, and what is real waste? And then start educating around doing investigations of repurposing, the preserves, the confits, things like that. And you'll be amazed. Suddenly your waste, your physical wet waste reduces, and then what you're left with goes into composting. And that goes back into the food cycle. So the next time you order fresh fruit and veggies, you know that they're going to be a far better quality because the compost that has been used. And there's some real innovation going on, particularly with some well-known coffee brands in South Africa, where they're actually taking their coffee grinds, and you can imagine, you've seen how many coffee exhibits are here. So coffee's a big thing. And freshly brewed coffee, taking the grinds, and they have started a movement of composting. And now they sell their coffee grind compost when you pick up your coffee. So we're going the full circle. So very clever innovations out there. So keep your eyes open. There's lots that can feed your intuition and your knowledge.
Sure. Amazing. And I think what Jane and Chef Koo are saying is never stop being curious. Keep asking yourself, how can I do this better? Research, right? I know a few people who say, I don't want to be in social media, it drains you, but also pick what you pick from social media, because you can actually learn a lot in terms of how we can cut the food waste. That's amazing. You just predicted the next question, by the way.
Oh, my lucky day.
So, I mean, really, you don't have to be so smart, okay? We know this. Now, as we draw to a close, I'm going to come to you because Jane has predicted the next question. Chef Koo, around some examples, right, of how sustainability and seasonality have been integrated into menu planning to reduce food waste. I think you've spoken a lot around practical examples already that we see, but let's tap into a little bit more into that seasonality aspect of it as well, and how you can integrate it into those plans for your menu.
Absolutely. And like I said earlier, times have changed. No longer are we relying, look, there are still books and stuff around, but now we have information at our fingertips. You don't have to wait to go onto an international trip to learn of what's happening in other parts of the world and what the cultures and what the food trends are. We have that information at our fingertips. So again, it comes from a planning perspective, and it's so important that we have more frequent menu rotations. Make the menus relevant, make them seasonal, and you don't have to have a big menu because this is the problem of what we have or what we're facing is because we want to try and please every customer that walks into the door, we end up with a Bible when you go into a restaurant. And now you don't even realize what you want to eat because now you're thinking, okay, I'm going to go to a steakhouse. So why do you go to a steakhouse? For steak. But then you open the menu and the steakhouse will have sushi, will have salads, will have pasta. And then you're like, okay, now I'm now spoiled for choice now. Do I really want the steak?
Then you can't make up your mind.
100%. So, and I can tell you now, once you start doing that, you become a specialized outlet. And you actually then grow your customer base because now people come to you because they can see you are being relevant.
I love that. I love that so much. Now, as we're about to close, I want to share, often when I go to hotels, right, the breakfast spread is so wide, and usually if you want an omelette, you will get a big omelette. But I'm like, I'm trying to get my summer body together. So I'll tell the chef, just use 2 eggs instead of 3, right? Because often, just because you're not paying for it, it doesn't mean it must go to waste. So now I'm more intentional. If I'm not hungry, 1 fried egg, and sometimes I ask for 1 and they do 2 because they're so used to doing 2. But I ask specifically 1 fried egg, 1 little slice, 1 little that, because that's what my body can take at that moment. And so I think we too can do something on a daily basis to change the narrative we see. Ladies and gentlemen, Jane Russell, as well as Chef Koo Pillay. Let's give them a round of applause.
Thanks, Janelle.